All right, so big announcement. Pretty much no big free agents left, it feels like now. Gordon Hayward just signs with the Charlotte Hornets. Before even passing it over to you, a good job on you for actually more so picking them. I know we kind of had a discussion where I said, yeah, if he goes there, it'd be good. He'd get probably over 20 a game. But I was definitely leaning more towards a contender like that Dallas, where he would just play such a similar role to what he was in Boston. And like you said it's probably more likely he goes to one of those bottom tier teams. Obviously, he did. He's with Charlotte. The contract itself, very good for him. We were questioning why he opted out. He ends up getting almost the same amount of money plus 3 more years on top of it. So overall, I mean, great for Gordon Hayward, great for the Charlotte Hornets. We talked about how they eventually needed to make a move, and I mean, I guess this is it for them.
Yeah, and it looks good for that team. They're bringing in free agents again. It does kind of lean towards the side of they have been overpaying free agents the last couple of years. With that being said, most of their team is still young. LaMelo is going to be there for the next 3 to 4 years in that rookie contract. They have the time to pay somebody like Hayward that money. He brings a lot of legitimacy to the team. He's gonna be a really great addition. That's exactly where I thought he'd end up going. So I think he's a fantastic fit that I've outlined before. Let's be honest, he's a fantastic fit on every team. We thought he was going to go to a contender for a lot less money for 1 year. He obviously proved us all wrong. He bet on himself. He obviously had a little more of some inside knowledge of some things that were going on that the media did not, because everyone was on the same page of he's probably going to do 1 year and then bet on himself afterwards, or he'll get like 4 year at maybe $15-20 million a year, and that he was going to lose out on a lot of money. The guy lost out on what, $4 or $5 million this upcoming year. He's probably getting paid about 28 in the first year. So with that being said, that's not a big difference in money for a guy who's already made that much. So I think that for him, he clearly knew what he was doing, and he just ended up with another great contract even after being injured. And if he's healthy, then I think it's a great place for him to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess good on Charlotte too for not making a move at the draft, because maybe, like you said, they did have that insight, because I had seen that apparently Gordon Hayward had actually accepted an offer sheet to go to Charlotte in 2014, but Utah ended up matching it. So apparently Charlotte, the organization, was like them a while. He must like the city. There was a lot of talk about him going to Indiana, which I believe made sense too, because I think it's his hometown, or at least that's where I believe Butler University is, where he played college ball. So it made sense to where he could go back, have that kind of small homecoming. Obviously likes the city. So there's a lot of talk about the Pacers leading up to it. And then out of nowhere, Charlotte just comes in, they steal it. I mean, it really fills out the roster well. It allows them to play Devontae Graham at the guard position. It allows them to likely at some point start Ball this year and move Rozier to that six-man position, where as much as we all people who like him want him to be a starter, he's probably better fit for that six-man role. And he's a very good six-man at that. So, I mean, as long as they could really just round out their center role, which they like Hermangonius, they'll probably bring him back. It's not a bad team either. We talked about the Hawks coming up being a playoff team. This is another team on paper, looking at them, much better than the Pistons, better than the Magic, I would say, better than those bottom tier teams who should be trying to make a move up, and they're just, again, not going to. Even the Knicks, what are the Knicks going to do at this point? Because, I mean, are you going to take that Knicks roster over the current roster that of the Hornets roster, the Hawks roster at this point? Because I still wouldn't. So, I mean, it just another year waiting for so many teams now. It's really these two teams, the Hawks and the Hornets, might be on the rise. We'll see who comes out of those playoff spots. Obviously, again, the Magic are likely one. And then that final spot's probably going to be a good fight between a lot of actually solid teams, honestly.
Yeah, and it's going to make the East more competitive. We've been, of course, in recent memory, the last couple of decades, the West been typically stronger in the top tier, but they've also typically been deeper. We've noticed in the last couple of years, the East has been coming on strong. Charlotte and Atlanta, both teams that have shown that they could see 10-15 game win improvement next year, which can be quite significant. It'll make that battle be all harder. I think the more of these lower tier teams that are coming up and being on the rise, it really puts a little bit of doubt in the top tiers that we might not have something like the Golden State that a couple years ago winning 72. It gave a lot more parity to the league. I think that it's nothing but a great move for those teams. Charlotte is gonna can compete for that playoff roster next year, that playoff spot next year. Will they get it? I don't know. On the flip side, the downside to all this would be if Hayward gets injured again, then they're paying him $30 million just to be a drag on them. And that could be something that would be a nail in the coffin for them for next year or two. Just being able to pay someone to be one of the top guys. And if he doesn't end up playing, that could be bad. Here's hoping that doesn't happen. He was always fairly healthy, or decently healthy, before he got to Boston. Hopefully that was just bad luck on his part, and he's able to go back to what he was in Utah. He had a great year last year, but he finally played himself back in that starting role. I think he'll definitely be the starter on Charlotte. It looks great on him. It must feel great to be that number 2 option, number 1 option again. I'm sure he's in a great spot mentally, like you said. Guy from a small college town he went to. Charlotte, if they're very welcoming to their players. They loved Kemba, even though they treated Kemba like he was a top 3-point guard in the league. Even though, he's great though, one of the best. But I think that he's going to go there, and the fans are going to love him. He'll be in a happy place, and he'll probably play the best basketball of his career at this point.
And do you think it even ends up being a sign and trade realistically? Because I had also seen that, again, Rozier last year leaves Boston, goes to Charlotte, they get nothing for him. Now again, Hayward. So do you think it's almost like somehow they're going to make a sign and trade work, or do you think it's almost just too bad for Boston again at this point? You guys didn't
too bad for if the Hornets can afford them.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure they can.
Hornets can afford them, then I'm pretty sure they can as well. There's no point of getting rid of anyone. The Hornets were one of the only teams that had salary cap space coming into this. As much as they do, they have paid a few guys quite significantly. If it is a sign and trade option, then if they have to get rid of someone like Batum, it is what it is. I think Batum would help him. I think with Hayward, Batum was to the bench, and that's in a way better position for him. That way he doesn't have to defend the best guy in the court every single day. But if it is what it is. But I'm pretty sure that they're signing him out, right? I haven't read anything about it being a sign and trade. Think so?
No, I think that the sign and trade scenario, I mean, like I said, it's unlikely now because I think the deal kind of is what it is. I don't know if it does happen, if Boston would even take Batum. I think they would rather try to put Charlotte in as bad as a position as they can, kind of thing, just based on kind of being sour about it. They would probably want some type of at least, definitely, they're not going to get anything top for him at this point, but they might want a role player in the second or something along those lines. We'll see again if it even happens. Who knows with these agents how it ends up working out. It's definitely still a possibility, but at this point, it just seems like Gordon Hayward's going there for nothing. He's just going to walk into Charlotte. Yeah, that's that.
Great addition. I didn't have to give anything up for him. It's a positive break for a team that has been very lucky in the last couple of years. They haven't really won anything since they've been in Charlotte, since Michael Jordan's been the owner of that team, for that matter. But I think it's a great move. He's definitely investing in it for the year. And just to note, Charlotte's salary was at $80 million before. They can essentially fit in Hayward very, very close with just that. So I don't think they have to give anything up for him. Looks bad on Boston for this matter. If Boston had the chance to be doing this, they probably wouldn't have done it because they know that they're going to have to pay Tatum and Brown so much money.
Yeah.
They know that to be competitive, they're going to have to pay those guys to keep them. And Hayward was not part of their plans. But goes to show Hayward barely played in the playoffs last year because he get hurt at one point. If there was such a disconnect with the team, they should have looked at potentially trading him before the trade deadline. And the fact that they missed out on this, Boston usually doesn't make mistakes like this, but it seems like they lost a good player to a team in the East, and I hope that it beats in a couple games. I think Hayward will go off for 25 points against Boston.
He definitely could. And I guess on a final note, too, I mean, you mentioned it yesterday, too, that Batum contract comes to an end after this year. The Biyombo contract comes to an end after this year. So even if this year isn't, per se, Hayward's, again, best year, I mean, going down the long run, I don't think that it's going to hurt them too much. They'll probably still have some room to sign some guys at least And in the end, I mean, like you said as well, the Ball contract, he's on this for a year, that'll be 3. Hayward deals 4 years. It's really only 1 year lapse. So, I mean, overall, it doesn't put them in a bad position. I think long term, I think overall, yeah, definitely a very good move for them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. And well, I think they're going to be competitive. Oh, by the way, Biyombo contract is actually up right now.
There you go. So that definitely gives them the room to probably bring Hayward in as well. So it seems even less likely that Boston gets anything for him.
And they had a $25 million cap hold, but I think that you release that cap hold if it means bringing in Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, definitely. That would definitely be worth it. You're not going to get a better player for that cap hold. We'll just leave it at that. Definitely.
No, and Biyombo is still only 28, 29 years old, and I'm sure he's going to go somewhere and have a good role somewhere. But Hayward coming in is a great move for that team. Again, I do think that puts Batum to the bench. If he is starting at this point, then he's at least not going to be guarding the best player in the other team. Hayward will take up that responsibility. It'll just gives a little more relief on Batum. Or even if Batum is the one guarding, because Batum is a great defensive player, at least he doesn't have as much offensive pressure as he had last year, the year before. He's not going to have to put up those points whenever we know that LaMelo is going to put in over 20 points per game. We know that Hayward, if he's healthy, is going to put up probably 20 points per game. It's just that Batum's can regress in taking those extra responsibilities and become a better player for him.
Yeah, I don't know if Ball will get 20 points per game this year. I think a lot will still be on Devontae Graham and still on Rozier too to put up some points. But I guess before moving on, do you think this year this puts Charlotte into a playoff spot, yes or no?
In contention for one, yes. I think that if a team like the Orlando Magic were a playoff team last year, I think that Charlotte is better than Orlando Magic last year. So with that being with that mind, I think so. Yes. My other mindset on that would be that teams like Atlanta are also coming up. So if there is a team like that would usurp them potentially, but overall, I think they're one of the top teams to be in a prime position for that 8th, maybe even 7th seed in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I agree. They'll definitely be either in that 7-8 seed or definitely in contention for it come the last 5 games. So definitely in the same boat there. Definitely puts them in the spot. It definitely puts them in a big improvement in the spot that they want to go.